All right, Mr. T, let's go, man. What the fuck? What the fuck, man? Shit.
Hey, man.
This is a fucking fucked up setup,
Hey,
man.
this
I don't.
we need to be a bit professional now. So, tell me a little bit about yourself, man. You know, for the public at large.
That's a general question. Ask me something.
Yeah,
specific.
but I think
Ask me something.
Like, what's your name? Like, you know, it's like for the people that don't know who you are. It's like we need some background here.
This is how we're gonna do it, eh?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Just say your name, man. Just say your name. What's your name?
Huh?
What's your name?
Eddie.
Eddie what? I mean, what do you mean Eddie? I didn't know you was Eddie.
Eddie Edwards.
No, man. Say your name.
Eddie is.
What's your birth name? Your birth name.
My birthday?
Your birth name.
October 1st.
No, I didn't say birthday.
I'm a Libra.
I just want to know. You're not doing it. Come on,
My
man.
favorite color is
I didn't
green.
ask you that. It's like I'm asking
You know,
you.
green
What's
hat,
your name?
green shirt.
Let's just get to the name.
Huh?
Just your name.
I told you I was a Libra.
Just say your name.
My favorite music? Okay, my name's Richard
Yes.
Edson.
Richard Edson.
Hey, don't talk over me.
Okay.
Richard Edson. My name is Richard Edson.
And tell us a little bit about Richard Edson. Professionally, tell us about Richard Edson.
No, let me tell you about where I live.
Where you live.
Where I live. This is where I live. We're in downtown Los Angeles. And I've lived here, WTL, way too long. I used to live, I don't know, you can't see that? Well, it's out that window. It's out that window, boom.
What is that, Skid Row?
2 blocks away. It's San Pedro. It's a big, beautiful building. I moved out here. I was living in a motel for about 2 years. I was doing a TV show. And then I ran into a woman at a party. And she said, oh, you gotta come downtown. So I live in this beautiful building, beautiful lot. It's on Skid Row, but you gotta give to get. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. 60-foot ceilings, about 1,600 square, no, 12-foot ceilings, 1,600 square feet. And it was so cool. I was playing in bands. I was rehearsing bands there. I got a little too comfortable. Even though it was Skid Row, it was a different time in Los Angeles.
When was that? When
That
did
was
you?
the mid-90s.
In the mid-90s?
Yeah, it was mid-90s.
You stayed, what, over a decade you stayed?
Yeah, no more, 2 decades.
2 decades in that same spot.
In the
In
same
Skid
spot.
Row.
Skid Row.
And Skid Row 20 years ago was like, if you were a white guy here after like 6 p.m., it was on.
You know, it's gotten worse and worse. When
It's
I was
gotten-
there, basically, I was there for 20 years. I was hassled once. It was like, people in Skid Row was like, we don't mess with those guys. And we were like, I made friends with a few people down there just so I could, not friends, acquaintances, just so we knew each other. And
Well, it was a place where black, white, no matter what, did not want to be after 6 p.m.
No.
It's like, so.
No.
So.
But even though walking around, I was never ever bothered. I tell you when you get bothered, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's when all the ghouls
Everybody
came.
fiending.
That's the ghouls and
You
the
know,
fiends.
got to
come out.
re-up.
Ooh, it
Yes.
was some nasty.
They're looking for a microwave.
And it was where I lived. It was on the corner of, between 4th and 5th, and 5th is known as Nickel, and the corner I was on was known as the crack corner. And then the corner on 6th and was known as the H corner, heroin. And then the meth corner was on, what is that? It was a block away.
Do you think being, I mean, I hate to cut you off, but do you think like in this environment is what gave you like maybe that compassionate edge to see beyond your life and to really see like on a day-to-day the struggles of so many people?
No, not really. I think if I don't mean to like toot my own horn, but I think I've always been like that. I've been curious and interested in other people. So I think that was natural. I think living down there was both good because I did a lot of writing, I did a lot of photography, I did a lot of music, and then the Hollywood thing, the acting thing, which I didn't really like the world of Hollywood and the world of movies. It's kind of very, kind of a phony world.
You seem like you conflicted with it. Just as simple as me just asking your name. And so many people know you from so many memorable movies. that it's just like you're the person. Like so many people want to be in the spotlight. They don't even want to act. They just want to be famous.
Yeah. Never wanted to be famous.
No, I get that from you.
Never wanted to be famous. I wanted to maximize my opportunities to do interesting and creative things and meet cool people.
Yeah, and you've done that.
I've done it, but I think
Yeah.
I fell into a pattern here that was I got a little too comfortable and a little too complacent,
Yeah.
and that's why I say way too long. That I miss the East Coast a lot. I miss New York. I mean,
But you miss the East Coast and you visit the East Coast,
Yeah.
but you still live in Los Angeles.
I still live in Los Angeles.
Yes.
It was easy. It's easy. It's
Can't
easy.
beat the weather. I mean,
I like the East Coast weather. I tell you, I love it. I love the cold. I love the fall. I love the
you
spring.
like the wind chill. I
I
can't
love-
even handle the wind chill.
I love it.
You get to be a certain age, and it's like your blood thins, and it's like you're like I'm in Louisiana. I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to move back to New York. And if I come back to New York in February, and I step out of that JFK, when that little area before you get to the cab,
Oh yeah.
and that wind chill hits you at that moment, you're like, I can never live here again.
I'm like, yeah.
No way, brother.
I'm like,
I can't
yeah.
wait to get back on the plane.
You know the word bracing,
Yes.
invigorating.
Yes.
I'm telling you, that's the way I feel.
Man, I'm okay with Louisiana weather
I
now.
know. I don't know. To me, this gets boring. Although this year was really unusual. It was
Yeah, everywhere.
great. Man. It was so great. It's funny. I was just talking to a friend, one of my few conservative friends. I was like, we were talking, but he lives in Florida, and it's like 110 degrees down there. I said, well, let me ask you about climate change.
Yes, that's a definite. Hey man, so
So
get
fucking predictable. I know that's not what we're talking about.
No, it's okay. It's life. So you've worked with some monumental directors, bro, and you've been in some life affirming and changing movies.
That's right.
And the one that really affected me, and the one that that I think the entire black community remembers you from is Vito in Do the Right Thing. And it's just like your character, man. It's just like in the time I grew up in New York, and it's just like and I grew up in New York since like in the late '60s, and so I knew the nuances and the nuances and the subtleties of New York, and how we still had neighborhoods back then. The Italians in the neighborhood, the Jews in the neighborhood, Puerto Ricans in the neighborhood. Everybody had a neighborhood. And then there were some neighborhoods like the Lower East Side where you had a melting pot of people, where I grew up. And but it's just like, so when we saw Vito, somebody who was compassionate, who didn't
Judge.
Yes, and saw the humanity in people. It's like that's what you resonated, for a lot of people, and also a lot of Caucasian people, who weren't about the hate, who weren't about the division. And then just like, in every other film, man, it's just like you've always played this very likable, kind of like, every man type of role, and that's the soul that these directors saw in you to connect with people. And so it's just like, I'm thankful that, that me and you've gotten to know each other and we've collaborated on this book. But tell me a bit more how like that person and that time in your life, got you to this point.
Well, okay, just to back up, because it's very interesting that I do like to do fun stuff. I do like to do comedy. I do like to smile and make people laugh. I'm a very physical type of actor, so I have a certain skill or talent to do physical acting, to comedy, and but Spike originally got in touch with me, and he wanted me to play Pino, the racist brother. And I was like, great. And like, I can play against my type.
Yeah.
I can play the asshole. I can play the mean guy. And he wanted to get Matt Dillon to play Vito, and he wanted Robert De Niro to play Sal.
Yeah.
And I was like, great, working with De Niro. But it turned out De Niro couldn't do it. Matt Dillon didn't want to do it, so we got Danny Aiello, he was perfect.
Yes, he was.
I mean, De Niro, he's the best, but it would have been a De Niro performance.
Yes.
So So, and he got John Turturro. And he called me up. He said, okay, I want to take you and Danny and John to the street, to the pizza bar, and show us around. And I didn't know it was like, okay, Matt Dillon's not doing it.
Yeah.
Turturro's doing it. I don't know what part I was going to play.
Yeah.
So we were walking around, and he took us into the pizzeria, and the pizzeria was just being built. And Danny and Spike, I said, John, which part are you playing? And he goes, Pino, of course. It was a little bigger part.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's how I found out I could play Vito.
You're the perfect Vito, bro. I mean,
It worked out good. I would have, I like to play bad guys. I like to play mean guys. And I don't get enough opportunity. I hadn't gotten enough opportunity. But go ahead. What was the question?
No, it was just like, just pretty much like how your background, has played a part in this new endeavor of yours.
Well, I never intended to be an actor. It just happened when Jarmusch wanted me to do the A Stranger in Paradise. I was a musician at the time, playing in clubs, and John was playing in clubs, Jim was playing in clubs, and there was that whole Lower East Side, East Village, post-punk explosion of creativity.
The good old days.
It was amazing. People. Yeah, those were great times. But they just kind of drafted me, and I was so excited about playing music and the kind of energy and the attitude that I have for playing music. I brought over to the acting thing, and it turned out I had some talent to do it.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started, and then I just kind of continued doing it. And at a certain point, I was in like 85, and about 20 years later, I kind of soured on the whole thing. I kind of got a little lost, and that's when I started to do a lot of writing and photography and a lot more music.
So a different way to express yourself. I mean, a new dialogue.
Yeah, you could say that.
And something that was more insular, more personal.
It's much more personal. You didn't have to wait around for other people for things. And I was never the whole acting world. It's interesting. The actors, by nature, assume other identities. They bring a part of themselves, but it's not as though you think about a musician, an artist, a painter. It's like, no, it's a pure expression of who you are. So it's interesting. It's a very interesting thing, and it's hard to get to know.
Yeah, but I can see the connective tissue between your acting and also, your photojournalism in your writing. So I mean, everything you just pretty much told me, it's like I see expressed in the book. Yeah. I see the comedic energy in the book. I see the realism. I see the documentary aspect of it. It's like there's so many different aspects of you as a person. So there's going to be so many different aspects of your expression in this book. And then also, I mean, what's really, is the cinematic energy of the photographs. I mean, I think a lot of the photographs are like, to me, I look at things as paintings, and I see a lot of paintings in your visual dialogue. And I'm quite impressed because usually it takes, a creative person a long time to master. It
took me a long time to master photography. Yeah, I don't know about that, but it took me a long time just to learn the fundamentals. Oh. I mean, back when I was learning, you're still using film. Yeah. So it was a very, very technical thing. It's like playing a musical instrument. It's very rare that you can get to an instrument. It's a physical thing. And photography, you have to learn the physics of light, the physics of the chemicals, the physics of
how they relate together.
Yeah, how they relate, how you can use those elements in order to find a great photograph and to fulfill your idea.
But I think that also the most important part of it is to know what makes a great photograph. To look at something and to see it with that lens. I think a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people don't see and break down, they don't see the construction of the image. Yeah, I mean, they don't have all the play into it. And that's what I'm talking about, being a master at it. And that's what I see when I see your book.
I think, is a gift some people have. I don't want to. No, it's true. Talent, talent is talent.
Yes, but it's just like, you know, you can have talent,
but you refine it and you work
exactly.
it. I mean, talent on its own.
Yes.
You know, it took me 20 years to understand. You know, the basics, the composition, the light, the shadow, the volume, form, all those things that make up a photograph.
So we have it all. It's like, so what happens, like, you know, like when you were in this space here during the pandemic, and when did you decide, like, this is what I'm doing? Like, you know, it's happening right now. Or was it happening and then you realized what was happening as you were in the process of it?
No. Yes and no. I think what I do as a photographer, I like to go out into the world. I mean, the documentary end of the thing, the photojournal. I don't think I'm a photojournalist, because to me, a photojournalist is somebody who goes after a certain story, and they tells a certain story at a certain time.
So the pandemic is not a story, and it's not a certain time.
Not in a way of not.
You think
not the way I did.
So you believe the images that you have in this book, they don't resonate photojournalism to you?
I would
with the text.
I would say that there are different kind of modes of photography. I do abstract photography. I do nature photography.
What would be the genre of this book? Like this book as a whole: spring, summer, fall, and winter, pandemic, year zero, lockdown journal. Certain date that you shot these things within a year. What's the genre of this book? I
would say it's a cross genre.
Of what?
Of abstract photography in terms of the images.
No. In charge of the whole book as a whole, as a whole.
With all due respect, I'll let other people define it.
But you have to have some type of I mean,
I think it's a conglomeration of different.
I'm going to say it's photojournalism. To me, when I see this book, I pick it up, I read it, I see what's going on. To me, it's photojournalism.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I was doing very consciously, because one thing, you went out into the world there was nothing going on. So a lot of it was for me to find out, to explore. And it was at the same time, because nothing was going on, I started to notice like nature and shadows and abstractions. And it was like, okay, this is going to be part of it. This is totally from a photographer's point of view. I can explore these different modes of photography. And that's something I did very consciously. And in the same way in the writing, there's poetry there, there's stories there, there's kind of straight journalism there, there's reflections, there's stuff on politics. So it was like, okay, I'm just going to do it all. It's like, why restrict myself to any kind of one form or one kind of mode? So that was my attitude when I was doing. So it's fine with me if people want to define it any way they want it.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, you know, I really think, you know, there's so much going on in this book, and 365 days. You know how we met.
Hold on. Add a little. Yeah, okay, go ahead. So,
David Hershkovitz introduces me to you from Paper Magazine, and we meet on Spring and 6th Street. And David is the reason I became a publisher. He's the publisher of Paper. And he's like, hey man, Richard is involved in the art game. It's like, can you help him? And you know, I started bumping into you. Like, I wasn't even living here anymore. I'm here like going to Kinko's, dropping something off, and I see you like, you know, making a copy or something, and I just kept running into you.
FedEx.
Yeah, FedEx Kinko's. I kept running into you. So me, I'm one of those people where I believe in the universe, and the universe putting people together, and to facilitate and bring to fruition, you know, certain, you know, ambitions of either person. And with you was this book. Me being a publisher, having access and distribution, and you having the book. And so, you know, I'm following you on Facebook, and I forgot the image, but there was one image that you posted, and you wrote like a little sentiment to it, and I was like, that to me, it was like the strongest thing I might have heard in relation to the pandemic, like since it had happened.
I remember. I don't remember what.
And
it
I
was.
hit you with a message, and
Yeah.
it said, "Man, you're putting out some phenomenal work here." I said, "When you get to day 365, we're gonna make a book." And I remember I was following it, and when you got to that point, I hit you up and said we need to meet. My partner and I flew out to LA, signed a contract with you, and that's when the hell began.
I think it was in December.
I can't
December,
remember.
November or December.
I think we were wearing jackets, so we had jackets on, so it must have been cooler here. So
No. When you wrote to me.
Oh, I can't remember that.
Because I was for some reason December, January.
It was like 165th
But let
day.
me, I also documentary. I do street photography, so something like that. I mean, what genre does this fall into? That's not
Well,
journalism.
to me, it looked like portrait. It's a beautiful seagull.
And
right
I
there.
do, 45 portraits. So
Yeah, but
so there's that and something like that. That's more.
And that's in the book.
Yeah, that's in the book.
Yes.
And that's in the book.
But I mean, it's part of a bigger
But that's-
picture, like a wider conversation. It's like
Right.
these are not one-offs. You know what I mean? This is part of the dialogue of this book.
I mean, it would fit. This is during the.
I mean-
the demonstration riots.
For that thing to have a life of its own, first we have to talk about scale. So I mean, at 4x6, if these photographs are 8x10, light box or some kind of display, it could have a one-off and live on its own.
Yeah.
But that's not what this book is.
Something like that, which is.
That's in the book as well, right? Yeah.
It's complete abstraction.
Yeah.
Yet, I think it captures a certain sense, a certain mood that made it very personal.
Well, on its own, it's an abstraction, but
Yeah.
it's like with the text, it's no longer an abstraction.
But
It's
a lot
like-
of times I would mix a text that had no direct relationship to this, to an image.
But it
of
felt
course-
like every image in that book had relation with the text that was accompanied on that page.
Well, some were more direct. Like I talk about the soldiers on the streets of downtown. Here I would talk about
The beach.
going to the beach
Yeah,
during
yeah.
like the first time they opened the
Yeah,
beach.
yeah.
But sometimes it would just be an abstract relationship to.
Yeah, but I
to
think
text.
all the photography, mediums are represented in this book. I mean, the figurative, the abstract, representational, like everything. Color field, I mean, you have everything in here.
Yeah.
It's just like a lot of memorable places, like how many people know this image, right here. It's like, I mean, it's like, like who hasn't seen those wings somewhere? I've even seen those wings in another state now.
I know the woman who started these
Yeah,
wings,
yeah.
and are those the ones of hers? She got so famous
Yeah.
that they fly her around the world.
Yeah.
She's made a career.
Good for her. Good for her. And I like what the wings represent, man. But with him, it looks like he's.
Wait,
this
this-
is a different
this-
type of angel here.
this- whoa.
There's a different type of angel going there. That's like
As some,
the angel headed to the liquor store. It's like
it's a sad figure.
sad figure.
But now, all right, so it's interesting. This is included in the book. In the section, it was pre-pandemic. So you were asking me about the pandemic. And so I like to go out into the world and take photos like this. I like to ride my bike and I like to write. So when the pandemic hit, I'm like, well, this is perfect for me because I can continue to do the three things I like to do and make something of it. So that was, I think it was, it started March 20th was the first lockdown. And the day before I went, everybody knew something was coming down hard. And the day before, I shot this.
So that was the day before it hit.
This is the 19th.
Uh-huh.
And the lockdown was the 20th. But everybody knew, it was like, Italy, they had that lockdown. Remember, they just
Yeah,
shut
yeah.
down the whole country. It was like 60 million people. And like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? China was locked down. It was like, and then one of the first cases was in New Rochelle, where my mother was living. And they had a 2-mile radius. It was at a Jewish temple that, and that was in Waigago, which is like a mile away from where my mom was. So it was like, oh, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. So I had that sense. Everybody had that, or most people. Some people was like, no, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. But I had a sense, and it's like these fucking clouds were like for 2 weeks.
Ominous, yeah.
It was like the shit was coming down, and it was kind of represented with the cloud. It wasn't even just represented. It was the feeling.
It's like a theme. Yeah.
It was more than a thing. It was
Yeah.
like a physical sensation that
Yeah.
the clouds were coming down. And
So you were getting the visual, and you was also.
the emotional
Yeah.
sense of it, and then it was the next day. I'm like, I'm just, all right, just let's do it. I live alone, so I had no responsibility to anybody else. I wasn't gonna go out and come back and spread it. But I didn't have any. It was like I felt totally safe going out. I couldn't.
To me, it felt like this is what you needed to keep your sanity. This is what you needed, like almost like your lifeblood. Like I feel like you're a very social person, and I think that without having this and not having a focus and not having, you're not getting the calls or you're not going to the dinners. Like it's a total like solitude, and you don't know when it's gonna end. You know what I mean? It's just like, so either you're afraid or you have no fear. And I feel like you went through a period that you just decided to have no fear, and that you're going to make something productive and something positive out of this situation. You're gonna. I think it's what you did to connect with everybody.
I think that's true. That's true. I didn't have any fear. I had a greater fear.
You didn't have fear of catching COVID?
No.
You never had a fear of catching COVID, and if you caught COVID, that it could take you out. You didn't have that fear in the beginning. The first 2 weeks when COVID first hit, and they didn't know what the hell's going on. You didn't have a fear that.
Not really,
If
because it was very clear it was a respiratory virus, so it was going to be spread through contact.
That was
with other
knocking people off who were over
It
50
was-
years old.
Yeah, but mostly it was older people and people with what they call it,
A weakened immune system? Or what?
yeah, had a
Like
they had diabetes.
Oh,
they,
yeah.
They had this or that. So
high blood and all that.
high
yeah.
blood, lung.
So you didn't have any of that. So that's why you
emphysema.
was like,
And I wasn't coming into contact
Yeah.
with people. The only time was when you went to the supermarket.
Yeah.
And my supermarket was Trader Joe's and this one in Little Tokyo, and they were so on top of things.
Yeah.
And people weren't going out. People were doing the services and
Yeah.
having things delivered. So I didn't really. It was like, no. I also felt kind of what's the word when you just accept what's going to happen. What's that word? A fatalist.
Yeah.
It's like if I do, I do.
So you accepted things like that?
Yeah.
I can never accept
in that case.
Yeah. I
Which-
always want to be in control.
Which-
always like, I'll
Yeah,
stay
I
in
know.
here the rest of
I
my
know,
life.
I
I'm
know.
not freaking moving.
I know, I gave it up. And it gave me a certain freedom.
Yeah, of course. You just decided, F it. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Hey, that's that's commendable, man.
And it allowed me to be very free with my writing and very
Yeah.
free with my photography. I don't care what anybody thinks. Usually, I don't know, you're an artist. It's like, we care a lot what other people think.
Okay, so now we have the book, right? It's
Yeah.
3 weeks. We're gonna have the physical book in our hands. This thing that's taken you, years to put together.
Yeah.
It's like, who benefits from this book? Who benefits from this book? Who wants this book? Why do I want this book? What does this book represent to me?
That's a tough question.
What does this book represent to me? You make a book from your point of view,
Mhm.
your perspective, your talent, your skill set. Now we have this book. It's 600 pages. I'm in the bookstore.
Is it 600?
It's like $5.98. So like
Is it really?
something like that.
Each one's 300? The two
No, it's
volumes?
like 250. It's like 300. It's just.
I'm impressed.
Okay, so what is it like? What makes the average person walking in, who's been through the pandemic. We all been through it. We all can identify. You know, all 350 million of us out here. It's like, what makes me stop here, pick this up? What do I get from this? What am I walking away with this book when I experience this book? What do you want me to walk away with?
Well, when I was doing it, I was thinking this is good for three kinds of people. It was good for the people who weren't leaving their homes, who were too scared to go out, but were wondering what was it like, and I was like, all right, let me go out, and I'd have those little encounters, I'd have those little adventures, and it was like, it was a distraction and an entertainment, and it was a insight into what was going on. So it was those people. And then and this may be a little pretentious, but I also felt that it's something for people in the future who would look back and think, what was it like to live through this pandemic? I was like, oh, I'm going to give them a very subjective, simple point of view. My point of view, but I was also thinking, it's just not about me. It's not about my feelings. It's just not about my ideas. It's about the world and what it was like. So it was those, and I did it for myself. As like, it wasn't so much sanity, but it was a way to give myself a purpose and a meaning and a structure. So it was something to do, and it worked. It worked very nicely. Why people now? Man, you're the publisher. I don't know. I don't know.
You know, it's like some like I buy books. I still read books. I read the paper every day. It's like, with me, it's like I love the smell of paper. I like the written word. And with this book, to me, it's like, because we just want to publish necessary and important and relevant books. We're not interested in any books, you have to take that?
Yeah. Damn, robocall?
Nah, it's okay. So for us, for us, it's like, Artvoices books, we decided to,
one extra.
what, for tonight?
Yeah.
Forget that. I'm not even gonna be able to make it. It's like, unless we leave straight from here to there.
Yeah, but you don't have a ticket.
I don't need a ticket. I mean, I have a magazine. I don't need tickets.
All right,
It's
you want to try?
Yeah, just put me on this anyway. If you could just do it.
There's no on.
So forget it. Forget it. Doesn't even matter. If I go, then I just freaking roll in there. I don't have to freaking talk to anybody really. But like we just feel like this book is important, and we feel like, in a historical sense, like you were saying, in the future generations, to look back and to see from your perspective and your view, what was happening, through a different lens. And that's what it's all, to me, the different perspectives is what it's all about.
So, I mean, that really is a question, because you're the one that took on the book on.
Because the book belongs out there. The book belongs in a place, because I believe books find people. It's like, so I believe, like, when people, the universe is always working, and I think a lot of people cannot articulate what they went through, and they seek that language, with artists. And I think that, you are definitely, filling that void, that for the person that just like cannot express what they went through, your book is going to help them to put words to it, put images to it, put a wider context to it. And I think in that historical kind of academic, area, it definitely belongs, I think that for like the person that didn't really look at the pandemic as anything that was like life-changing, or the person that wants to forget the pandemic, that wants to act like it never really happened, for that person also, it's challenging. So I think it serves its purpose in so many different areas and with so many different demographics. So I think from, like I said, it's just like this book was not really about you, and it's just like, so that's what I get from it. And I think it's something that's timeless, You know, I don't think it's a fad. It's not a trend. You know, this is something that was heartfelt and that you articulated, and that I think you did a very good job at putting this book together. And I think that when we look back on this book, that this book is going to stand the test of time. And that's something I feel comfortable saying, because I feel like that is the criteria and the protocol to us working with authors, with our book company. You know, we're not interested in trends. We're not interested in gimmicks. We're interested in real conversations. And you are having a real conversation in this book. So that's the way I see it. And I still see it as photojournalism. You know, I don't see the abstract. I don't see any of those other things in there. But I understand you not wanting to pigeonhole or put yourself into some category. You know, but for me, it's photojournalism. It's like, you know, from the first page to the last page, I feel photojournalism. And that's what it is.
I couldn't have said it better.
Yes, sir. So we good?
You're good.
Yeah.